Testimony of wanton murder is available from both sides. Let me read the side that you have heard before, then I'll now read the side that you have not heard before. Mr. Isaac A. Ogbonaya of Arochukwu was a catering clerk at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. He narrates, on 8 September, Mr. I.E. Ubani, an Umaya man and clerk in the Ministry of Agriculture, informed me and one Yoruba man that Operation Number 3 to finish the Easterners will be carried out on 28 September. At midnight of 28th September, I heard a big and continuous noise at the agriculture quarters about 1/4 of a mile away. I then woke up my inmates. Observing that our lives were in danger, we escaped into the nearby bush. Under cover of the bush, we could see a mob break open the house of Mr. Ezima and his brother, both of whom came from Umuahia, Eastern Nigeria, and drag their bodies out after killing them. Observing that our lives were in danger, we escaped into the nearby bush. Under cover of the bush, we could see a mob break open the house of Mr. Ezima and his brother, both of whom came from Umuahia, and drag their bodies out after killing them. Why are they doing this? Because they said, oh, there's something was about to happen. One. Number two, there's also the news report coming from Radio Cotonou and being rebroadcast on Radio Kaduna about Hausas being killed in the east. Was it true? Yes. We're going to get to that later. Let's continue. Then at about 2 a.m., one of the roving mobs spotted us and gave chase. We all ran down to the river valley nearby, where the grass was so thick that we escaped. There we parted and I hid myself inside a covert. At 7 a.m. the following day, Thursday, I came out. When I saw some policemen passing, I decided to go back to my house to see if I could get any of my things. On my way to my house, one fellow worker, Mr. Stephen Onoha, a native of Okigwe, Eastern Nigeria, saw me and started to hail at me. His calls attracted the attention of a group of Northerners working at the building site. They chased and caught him and beat him to death with hammers and sticks. When they killed him, they carried away his portmanteau. When they turned and chased me, but being already far from them, I was able to outrun them. As I ran towards the senior service quarters in the campus, I met Mr. J.O. Arukwe of Arochukwu, Eastern Nigeria, and Mr. Phillips of Asaba, Midwestern Nigeria, Igbo. Both of them executive officers in the university. Both were driving in their cars to work. I stopped them and warned them that there were violent disturbances in the campus. They reversed their cars and drove back to their quarters. I ran up to the house of a Yoruba lecturer and took shelter. As the lecturer lives near Mr. Arukwe and Mr. Phillips, I was able to see Mr. Arukwe join Mr. Phillips in the latter's house. I also witnessed an attack on Mr. Phillips' house, and I saw Mr. Arukwe dragged out dead from the house. And again, I ran into the room of one Yoruba man and hid inside the ceiling of the building. I stayed there from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They went into my room and looted all my belongings, after which they came into the Yoruba man's room and asked whether there was any Igbo man hiding there. They were told that no Igbo man was there. They left saying that they would come back again, and that if they discovered that the Yorubas were hiding anybody, they themselves would be in danger of losing their lives. They said they knew I had not gone to work and that I was hiding somewhere, as they were sure I had not escaped. I heard all these things from my hiding place in the ceiling. At about 7 p.m., I left the yard and sought a way out. I entered the bush and ran until I came out on a tarred road. Just as I was looking to see if I could get a lorry to take me, I saw some Hausas, and they were the very people who were looking for me. I ran in the opposite direction, but unfortunately I came upon a roadblock and many soldiers were there with their guns. The soldiers caught me and started beating me. Judging from the way they handled me, I believed that I was a dead man, but they left me half dead. I called on them to come and take my life, but they refused and said that they would leave me there to suffer and die in agony. Such behavior, like the one that happened to those people, was not confined to the north. In Enugu, the attack on Northerners started on the 15th of August. Igbo soldiers led the attack. About 630 Northerners were killed in the province, while 27 were seriously wounded. The book is Crisis and Conflict in Nigeria by A.H.M. Kirk Green. I'll start again. In Enugu, the attack on Northerners started on the 15th of August. Igbo soldiers led the attack. About 630 Northerners were killed in the province, while 27 were seriously wounded. A Northern boy, 7 years old, was publicly slaughtered in the streets by uniformed Igbo soldiers in the presence of another Northerner who was dressed like an Igbo and was thus able to escape detection. In Onitsha province, 30 Northerners were killed and 6 seriously injured. In Owerri too, where Northerners had lived for long and intermarried with the Igbos, they were attacked and killed in cold blood despite assurances from the Igbo elders. One Northerner who escaped from Owerri was Alhaji Sabo, who was born there, his father having settled there 70 years ago. His father, chief of the Hausa community in Owerri, had been a customary court judge there for 37 years. He was killed at the beginning of the organized attack on Northerners in the presence of the son, who later managed to escape to Kaduna. In September, a very large number of those Northerners who had managed to reach Oboloafo on their way to the north were murdered. This atrocity was witnessed by some foreigners on the Otukpo-Onitsha road on their way to western Nigeria, and these eyewitnesses are believed to be one of the sources of information for the foreign broadcast of the atrocities. In Port Harcourt, a house with a large number of northern women in hiding was attacked. The women were raped and beaten to death. Igbos singing war songs slaughtered every Northerner they could find in the street, and a number of those who were in hiding were killed quietly by their neighbors. During the evacuation, a train driven by an expatriate carrying about 2,000 Northerners from Port Harcourt was stopped at Imo River by Igbo soldiers. Suddenly, Igbos armed with deadly weapons rushed out from the bush and attacked the passengers. Every adult male Northerner on the train was killed and the bodies thrown into the river, while children and the young women were captured and taken into slavery. The few survivors were eventually admitted into Otukpo and Makurdi hospitals. There's another book, but I don't want to read it. It's already past 6. The book is by, you know what? Let me read it. It's by Elechi Amadi. It's called Sunset in Biafra. Let me read something to you from there. Why do I talk about this? Is it to make Igbos like, oh, they are bad people? No. It's just to say that, listen, people hurt you, and it was terrible, but you also hurt people, and it's also terrible. So what you do is not to say, oh, you're a bad person. Just understand that we are all humans, and we made mistakes. Before I read the book by Elechi Amadi, let me just read something to you from volume 2 of this book. It says, at this time, this is September, Nigerians of northern origin living in the former eastern region were attacked by Igbos. Many of them were killed, others maimed and injured. This was between 28 September 1966. The attacks on the Northerners took place in Port Harcourt, Abakaliki, Oji River, and Onitsha. News of these attacks was first broadcast over Radio Cotonou in Dahomey and other foreign stations, and subsequently over Radio Kaduna. Northerners in Igbo land fled back to the north. Many of those who tried to escape were collected, massacred, and dumped into Imo River by Igbo assailants. Then the Northerners retaliated by attacking Igbos living in the north. One more source, and then we'll move on from this. Sunset in Biafra, right? See, the Nigerian story can be sad, but I think one of the mistakes that we make with this, the way we talk about empathy, is that we forget that in many cases it takes two to tango. It'll make it look like it's just one-sided, but it's not. Late in September 1966, this is from a man called Elechi Amadi. The book is called Sunset in Biafra. Elechi Amadi is an Ikwere man, by the way, and his own people also suffered, right? Many people were killed in the eastern, in Port Harcourt, who were eastern minorities. We'll read about them maybe tomorrow or the day after. But let's go back to what happened to the Northerners in the east. Why am I saying this? I'm not saying the Easterners are demons. I'm just saying that there's no sole victim in the story of Nigeria. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying the Easterners are terrible or this person is worse. I'm just saying that, listen, not be only one person, just a chop. They give and receive. Terrible stuff, by the way, but it is what it is. Late in September 1966, reprisals against Northerners resident in the East began. One Saturday, I drove into Port Harcourt from Ikwere Eche Grammar School when news of the incident had begun to filter into the province. At the railway crossing near the stadium, there were several dead bodies. Along Owerri Road, now Ikwere Road, I had to drive carefully to avoid corpses. The most spectacular killing was that involving a man and his donkey. The story was that two men were being chased to begin with, and that one of them had turned into a donkey. Northerners were reputed to be accomplished in magic. When therefore the pursuers saw a man and his donkey emerge from a lane, they killed both, burnt them, and placed them by the roadside near St. Thomas Church, where crowds of passers-by gathered to stare at them. Then he says, I do not think Ojukwu organized these killings. He must have known that the act would take some of the strength out of his case while achieving little by way of retaliation. But it was certainly an organized affair, for stories of similar incidents trickled in from Aba, Umuahia, and other places. When the BBC picked up the news, it was denied. You know, I took a while before I read that part. That is the problem of the East. The denial of the things they do, but the tears and wailing of what was done to them. That doesn't make you human. That you hurt people doesn't necessarily make you a villain, just makes you human. But that you deny the things that you did makes you not human. It makes you a demon. Because what it means basically is that you're trying to cajole everybody and blackmail everybody and weaponize empathy to make it look like you are the only one. You just sat and they just beat you. Everybody is beating you. That lie is what must end in Nigeria. To say, listen, what happened was terrible, but guess what? What you said we did. Why even lying about it when there are many, eyewitness accounts? There are other things that happened to them. We're going to talk about some of those things tomorrow, but let's stop here for now.